Hello, do you hear me? Hello, hello. Not sure if it's working. Okay. Hi, Peace. Hi, Akash. I'm not sure if I pronounced those names correctly. So let's, hi. Hi, Colin. Hi, Justin. Awesome. Okay, perfect. It's my first time doing this kind of thing, so awesome. Happy to be recording this. So we'll see how it goes. So let's get into this application right away. So I already generated, thanks, Ray. Awesome, perfect. I was worried about all the setup because it's the first time I'm doing that. So I generated this Flutter application from the generator. So if you're using VS Code, you can just use the Flutter new project. Hey, Gopala. And then it will generate this very basic scaffold like this. And now I would like to, so I ran this in the emulator. So if you want to run it, then you have to just do Flutter launch emulator. And before you have to have this emulator created. So I covered that in one of the videos on my channel. And if we have that, we can now start working on this application. So for example, we can start like changing some stuff, and it should be reflected once we change something. It's automatically reflected here in the application. So the first thing I would like to do here is to do something different than other applications are doing. And I would like to talk about the structure, the directory structure of this application. So for example, how we will arrange the files. And in order to do that, I would like to recommend this particular article or question on software engineering on Stack Exchange, which compares two approaches, folder by type and folder by feature. So folder by type is the most popular approach, and it means that we group together different artifacts, different files by type. So for example, if we have models, we group models under models directory, and if we have services, we group them under services directory, controllers under controllers directory, and so forth. But there's another way of doing that. There is this folder by feature approach, which groups together files that are similar, that work on a similar feature. So if we have an article, for example, we will have article model, we'll have article service, we will have maybe article repository to interact with the database, and we will put all those together in one directory. And this is what this is the difference between folder by type and folder by feature. So I would like to do a test here. This is quite unusual for Flutter projects from what I've seen, but we will, instead of doing it by type, we will do it by feature. And there is this answer here, which says that folder by type works only on small projects and folder by feature is superior. But of course, you shouldn't listen to anyone writing anything on the internet. But there is some truth to that, that managing the directory structure by feature may be somehow easier to manage simply. And there is this another analogy that if you, for example, think about React.js or Vue.js, what they did is that they introduce this concept that you put together CSS, JavaScript, and the template. And this is a component. So the folder by feature is somehow like an analogy. It's an extension of this concept. So it means that we group together those things that are related to a particular feature, so to speak. I'm not sure if it's clear, but if not, I encourage you to. I will put this article in the notes after the session. But I encourage you to read about this. And there are some projects like AngularJS which also use that. So let's back to our code and let's start doing that. So I will create a directory called features. And here we will create another directory called article. And in this article directory, I will create our first file. And this will be article model. So there are different ways of starting a project. So you can start in different places, but I like to start from the data. So the question I'd like to ask myself is, what's the data we are working with? So if we want to build an application, a mobile application that displays articles from a third-party service like Dev.to, the first, like the most obvious feature, the most obvious concept is the notion of article. And when we start writing that, we may start thinking about what attributes, what characteristics this has. So, for example, let's start writing this article model maybe, so it's easier. And for example, we may say, oops, there's something not working here as expected. Sorry about that. Okay, so we may, for example, say that this model should have, for example, ID, and it should have a title because articles have titles, and then it should have, let's say, description. Like so. And we also need to create a way of creating an instances of that. But because we will be asking an API to get the data for our application, we will need to just a way to convert what the API gives us, which will be some format, and in our case, it'd be JSON, to convert that into an instance in our application. So in this case, the article model. So instead of creating a typical constructor, I will just create this from JSON. And this part is just, with this, we'll be serializing the data we are getting from the API. So this parameter will receive what the API is sending us. So we haven't really talked about API yet, but it's not really an issue because it's all about the general concept here. So we are just imagining that we have this API and it gives us some data. We know that it's the JSON format we are receiving. So it's a hash or a collection of certain things. And now in our application, we want to get that, grab this JSON and convert it somehow into our model. So we expect the JSON, and as a result, we want to say that the ID, so this field over here, is what we received over the wire. There's some delay here with and we are interested in the ID field from the JSON. So the ID field from the JSON we are receiving from the API, we are getting that and we are assigning it to our ID in our model. And then we are repeating that for title, and description, like so. So this is just a very basic way of serializing data. In different programming languages, it's being done in different way. And Okay, so here I made a mistake. So it's of course article model. But here we are doing it by hand. So in some programming languages, you may do it by automatically, because as you can see, there is some kind of repetition here. We know that the JSON we are receiving has the ID, title, and description, and it's almost identical. Well, it is identical with what we have here, but it's not always the case. So the computers should be able to help us here, and instead of us humans writing this sort of this code, this should be somehow generated. So there are tools that can do that. But for now, for simplicity reasons, we will do it by hand. And maybe in the future, I will cover in a separate video how to do it in a more smart way. Okay, so we have that. And we haven't really seen the API. So let's go over to Dev.to. And they have yeah, you could do this as int. This will work, but in JSON you have the numeric type. So once we serialize it, yeah, good question. So we haven't really. This is something we will cover, but let's take it step by step. That's a good question, Sean. I would like to focus on the happy path now. So everything should be its ideal world, and then once we have it working, once we have all the articles displayed in our application, then we will see all the edge cases. So, for example, nullable types are an example of that. So let's keep it like that, and let's go over to the API and let's see what they provide us. So we are interested in displaying all the articles. So we are going here to the articles, and they have some endpoints. So for example, we can fetch published articles, we can create a new article, we can get a particular article. So for now, for this first screen, this happy scenario, we will be interested only in this articles endpoint, and let's see what they provide us. So if we do a request to this API, we don't need any authentication. So for example, we could do it by hand. So let me just open a window here, and I will just make it bigger. So there is this tool called HTTP. So maybe I will first show you the tool. So it's like curl. It's a tool that allows you to make HTTP requests from the command line. So you can use curl, but curl has some, like, I would say, difficult to remember how to say it, commands and parameters. So HTTP tries to make it easier to remember, and also you have those colors. So as you can see here in curl, it's all white, and with HTTP we have those nice colors. So let's try to get those articles. So instead of using curl, we will just use HTTP. So we don't need any authentication, and as you can see, we received something. So let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so we have several articles, and we have some fields here. So we have the ID field. Yeah, that's a good remark. I was thinking about that, but it seemed a little bit wonky or like difficult to use. I would prefer to make those requests directly from the VS Code. But if you have some recommendation, I haven't found the plugin that really worked the way I wanted. So I think it would be nice that there's like a wrapper around HTTP, because it's not only about fetching data, but also about posting data and so forth. So somehow those plugins for VS Code were lacking that, but maybe it changed. So let's get back to this data over here. So we have, each article has a lot of fields, and we defined this article model as the article model is serializing 3 fields for now. So it's ID, title. So do we have title here? Yes. And description. I wrote description. So I don't see description here. Let me. There is description. It's empty. Okay. So let's try to get those into our application now. So we have the URL. Yes, exactly. As Raymond is saying, this could be a solution to the problem of those fields. Yeah, but it also depends on the type. So in the example you provided, it's about strings, and for integers it may be different. So let's try to get this into our application. So I'm heading back here. So we have this very simple article model. And now I'll create another file and I will call it article service. And this will be the layer in our application that interacts with the third-party endpoint, in this case, the REST API of Dev.to. Because we will start with the REST integration, and then we will see how GraphQL improves that. What's bad about REST and what's good about GraphQL, and maybe what's bad about GraphQL as well, but we will see how it goes. So here we will try to, so I will do something which you shouldn't maybe do, but we will do a static method here, and let's call it browse. So this method will be used to browse the articles from the Dev.to REST API. And we will also create another one that will be getting the a single article. So if you're familiar with the REST, this will be like a get articles ID. And this will be a get for articles simply. And because this is a long operation, so to speak, it's asynchronous, because over the wire it will take some time. So it will be returning the futures here. So it's like promises in JavaScript. Okay, and of course it's article model, not article, like so. VS Code is very slow. I'm sorry, my computer is very hot with all the software. Okay, so we have that. So now let's try to make a request from Dart, from Flutter, to the to this API, Dev.to API. So first, let's define the yeah, it's very slow, very slow. Okay, let's define the URL. So we will be just getting this URL over here. So for now, I won't be making it. I could just extract, the common part, which by that I mean Dev.to API, and then once we will start using other resources from their API, we could make it as a parameter. But for now, it's good enough. Let's be practical here. And so we have that. So the next thing is to use a package which will allow us to make the request to this API. So we need a package. So we need to open our tabspec YAML over here, and there is a package called HTTP in Flutter, and you just need to add it. And I just save, and automatically in VS Code the package is being downloaded, so I don't have to execute anything. VS Code is smart enough to do the right thing here. So let's head over here. I created a tab. So that's the package we are installing. And if we go over to example, we can just get it as HTTP, and then we can simply make a get to a specific URL, to a specific endpoint. And because this is a synchronous operation, we need to make the function asynchronous, and we need to await the result. So let's do that. Let's go here, browse. So we will do HTTP GET. Okay, and we will do URL. Oops. And let's see if it's smart enough to, no, it's not. So I'll just copy quickly that. Okay, and it's, okay, like that. Okay, and yes, I prefer DIA as well, but from what I've seen, HTTP is this recommended package because it's created by the Dart developers by Google. So I want to keep it simple for now, but yeah, the DIA, we can maybe find it. It's a good alternative. So I've been using that, and especially if you are doing posting data to the REST APIs, it has some nice things. But for now, let's keep it simple. Okay, so here we need to get the response. So we will do a response, and we will do await. This needs to be async, like that. So we are doing this request the same way we did it on the command line. So we are getting a string, and now we need to convert it. So first of all, what we are getting here is not only a string, it's the whole response. So there is the status code, there is the body of the response, and there are other parameters. And we are, for now, we are only interested in the body. So let's extract that. So let's call it payload and do response body. Sorry for the slowness, it's extremely slow, VS Code. So advantages of DIA is that personally, when I was doing, for example, file uploading, it didn't really work well with HTTP, but maybe it changed. So with DIA, it was more straightforward. So as you know, when you do an upload, maybe you don't know, I'm sorry, but if you do an upload, there is this another header multipart. So with HTTP was somehow like difficult to achieve, and with DIA it was straightforward. So that was the advantage of it. The package seemed more polished a few months ago, but maybe the HTTP package is being developed very fast, so maybe it changed. And the second question, okay, about limitations when it comes to cookies. So I haven't heard about that. I'd be happy to learn more. So let's go back to the code. So we are getting the response, and we are for now only interested in the body. So we are extracting that as a payload. So the payload is just string, and we need to give it some meaning. So we need to serialize this payload into a proper collection. So let's quickly switch to oops, okay. So this will be a collection, and we will use JSON decode payload. Okay, and is it smart enough to? Yeah, it is. So now we received this large JSON, this large string, which is a JSON, and it's a collection, but we need to convert it to a collection in our application. So we are decoding the string, and we are getting a collection. But that's not all, because for now it's just collection of hashes of maps, and we need to, what we want is a collection of article models. So the models we created over here. So we need to make an additional step here, and we need to convert that. So we will use something like that, and let's call it elements. I want to keep it generic instead of calling it articles, because later on I will, not in this video, but maybe in the future one, I would like to show you how we can generalize that, because it's always the same. It's like a boilerplate here. But for now, it's good enough again. So, and here we will be getting this collection we received, we decoded, which again is just a collection of hashes, and we will map over it, and we will use, so let's move it here maybe. So here we will have article, but instead of repeating that, I will just use underscore to represent that variable. And this will be a function, and we will do article model from JSON underscore. And that's all. So we are iterating, we are mapping over this collection of hashes. And we are taking each of those hashes, passing it as a parameter to the from JSON in order to create a new instance of article model. So as a result, we will have a collection, a sequence of article models created. And we will return, because we want to return a list of, article models. So we need to take these elements, and in Dart, in Flutter, we need to additionally convert it to list. And it should be good enough. So now we will do something, maybe again something you shouldn't do, because in this video we won't be doing any tests, but tests are very important. But to just test if it works, I will create a main function here, and I will just run it. So I will just do something of that sort. Article service browse. And this will be a list like that, and we will print it. Okay. So now I'm opening the terminal, and I will just run this. Features. Features article service. Okay, so we got something. We got instances of article model. So it seems it works. And so for now, let's remove that. And let's get to the Yes, I still use Emacs Doom. I love Emacs Doom. I'm using VS Code because it's easier for people who are starting programming, and it's also the integration for Flutter is better, I think. So that's the reason. But I love Emacs Doom. I love Emacs. Um, okay, so let's try. Now we have the collection of articles serialized, and let's try to display this on the screen. So I will remove this part over here, and this, and this, and this as well. And I will now create a list view builder and item builder like that. Item count. Sorry, and here we will return center child. Okay, so it works. That's good. So now we would need to connect our application with the data we received. Yes, I ran it in the debugger. Yeah. So if you're if you want to like check what's happened, so maybe I won't complicate for now. Just want to keep it simple, but the integration with VS Code is pretty nice. So we can just stop and you can see. Maybe we'll see this as we go. Okay, so now what we should do, we should connect this to the data. Okay, so I will do something which is different for Flutter, and instead of using the typical ways of developing applications in that community, which is through something called provider and block business logic components, I will use this other approach, which is called Eric's VMS, which is somehow the idea that it's like rehashing of the old concepts from the past, mostly from Java. And it's instead of doing certain things by hand, so to speak, we'll be using streams. So we will be using this, in particular, we'll be using this package called Eric Start, which is extremely, it's a great package. And we will try to architect our application so that our widget tree doesn't have any state and everything is being fetched from some other place through streams. So if you watch my other videos, I use this analogy of a garden. So in gardens, you have flowers, and you can use sprinkles to water those flowers. So if we use this analogy in Flutter, the flowers are widgets, and the process of watering them is by providing them streams of water. So we keep those things separated. The garden just waits for the data from streams, and it can develop, flourish. So let's try to do that. In this architecture, we have data. We have managers which manage the data using streams, and we have view. So we already have the model. We have the service that will be used by manager to get the data. So we are missing the manager. So let's create that. And now it may be slightly more complicated, but let me just know in questions if I'm going too fast or. So the first thing I will do is to, again, fetch the dependency, Eric start. Again, I just save and automatically it fetches. Okay, 3 seconds. It's good. Okay. So this manager. So I'm not sure if you remember, if you watched some of my videos, but with this approach where we have data managers and the view, and we don't complect. So we don't like put the data inside a widget tree. We keep that separate. The data flow is, we could say, horizontal. It's like we have those three little worlds: the world of data, the world of managers, and the world of view, and they communicate horizontally. It's just a way I imagine that. Instead of putting data through the widget tree using provider. So here, manager, in order to operate, needs two things. It needs to provide the streams for widgets that are interested in those streams, but it also needs to receive some informations, some signals. So we will be using two concepts here. The first one is the stream, which where you can just listen for data, and the other one is sync, where you can notify the manager about something. So, for example, you may say, give me new data, or give me specific data. Just open them in a web view or pass intent to the browser. You mean in the debugger? Could you could you clarify the question? Okay, so let's go over this manager. So streams. So first stream we will create, it will be a publish subject. So subject is something that manages streams. This is a concept in Eric's Dart. And we'll call it filter subject. So we will use this, this subject, this controller, to provide us a stream which will give us articles in response to a query. So for example, at some point we will add the search bar, and if someone enters something there, the characters, we will use those characters to filter those articles and like provide a reduced list of articles. So the subject is the concept that this notion that manages that for us. I'm not sure if in Eric's JS it's the same. The same is called subject, but so let's try to yeah, it's smart enough to. So we have that. So let's implement the constructor like that. Sorry about that. It's very slow. Okay. And so the idea here is that we are getting this subject, and we expect some data there. So the filtering or empty string. If it's empty string, it's a signal that we should display all articles. So it means that the filter, the query hasn't been yet provided. So we will do a switch map here, and okay, is it working? And as a result, so switch map will just wait and for those potential filters or empty string to be sent. And once something arrives, it will be available as a filter in this callback here, in this function. And what may be difficult here, that this function is in fact, well, will be or should be a generator. So it means that it's not only async, because let me maybe write it first, so it's clear. So here we will just use the service we created, the browse method, right? And we need to await, because it's a synchronous operation over the wire to the API. So we need to await. So in that case, the function, which is parameter to switch map, must be async. But we need to make it a generator as well, because we want to pass this data, yield what we received. So we are receiving a collection, and we want to yield that, so pass it further, let's say, to the widgets. So each time we receive something, we are doing a request to the API. We wait for that request, and we yield what we received. So if it's an empty string, the filter, this means give me the whole list. So we are yielding the whole list. If there is like a few letters, we are filtering by those letters. We haven't implemented yet filtering, but that's the general idea here. And we yield potentially a reduced list here. And the second thing we need to do, we need to make now a stream available to widgets, so that widgets in our application can listen to this stream and react based on that. So let's create that. So we will create a stream, and this is a stream which will be returning those lists of articles. And it means that each element, let's say, in the stream is not article, but it's a list of articles. Okay, and this is small, of course, here. Okay, so let's call it browse. So I like ending streams by the $sign. It's a convention I've seen in a framework called Svelte, I think, and I liked it. So you don't have to do that, but it's just easier when you look for the widget tree to see which one are streams. And now we will do a collection subject, which doesn't exist yet. It's so slow. Sorry about that. Let's create that. So we are now creating the collection subject because we want to have the interface. This will provide the interface for the manager, so that, as you can see, I prefix those variables with underscore. So in Dart, it means it's private. So now I want to have the ability to limit certain things, the visibility of certain things. So I want to say that what's exposed is only browse, this stream. And this stream operates it's managed by this collection subject or controller. So in order to get the browse, it will be the data will be flowing from collection subject, from the stream of collection subject. So now I have an error like that. We need to just initialize this. Okay. I'm not sure if you see. Okay, list article model. Okay, then we have, okay, so here I don't want to use it as a method. I want to use it as a just as a name. So I will do this trick, and by using the get, I'm converting it into a getter. So then in code, I can just write browse dollar instead of writing something like that. So let's summarize. We have this browse, which is exposed by the manager, and it's operated by a collection subject, which is just a subject that manages a list of articles. And this subject has a stream, and we expose this stream under this name. And we have another subject which manages the incoming data, which is filter subject. And this filter subject is configured here in the constructor the way that once it receives something, it does this request to the endpoint and yields the results. So once it yields, we need to do something. So we need to listen on that. Listen, and we will be getting a collection. So we will be getting here what's being yielded here in line 14. So we'll be getting either the full list of articles or a reduced list of articles. And what we want to do is we want to now move this collection to the browse so that it's available to the widgets. So we simply need to use the subject, so collection subject. It's so slow. And we need to just add this collection. So once again, we have the filter subject. It receives some data. It does the requests. It yields the list of articles. We listen for that, and we push that. We add that to this subject, so it's now available through this stream, and we expose that. So the final piece of puzzle here is to have a way to get the data in to manager. And for that, we need a sync. So in this case, it would be string. So if it's an empty string, it means give me the whole list. If it's some other string, we will filter using those characters. Sorry. Okay. So we have the sync, and for the sync, I have another convention. I like prefixing them with in. So for example, in, and let's call this filter. And we need to create the sync. So sorry, we need to get the filter subject. And there is sync. And again, I will make it a getter. Okay, so now those two things, line 10 and line 11, this is the interface of our manager. We are only exposing those two things. We are exposing a way to for widgets to listen for things through a stream, and we're also exposing a way to communicate from the widget tree to the manager if something needs to be adjusted. For example, a list of articles should be reduced or not. So in filter, we are getting the data through the sync. It appears here. So we are listening on that. We get the particular value. We are doing the request. So it needs to be async because it's a synchronous operation. And it's also a generator because we are yielding that. And then we are listening on that. And we add this, the thing we received, a list of articles to this collection subject. So it's available for browse. So now if we just hook our widget, the widget, the one we are, the list view widget, to listen on the browse stream, we should have it displayed. So in order to do that, I will just copy some code I've been using in my tutorial. Hello. So in this tutorial I'm doing on YouTube, Flutter in Practice, I have those helper methods I created by hand, and I will just copy now a few of them. It's very simple code. We can briefly explain what it does. So the first one would be observer. So it's just a simple class which listens on streams. And let me just get that over here. We will create another folder here and we will call it helpers. And another file, and let's call it observer. So it's a custom class. And it's just a wrapper around Stream Builder. So if you're already doing some things in Flutter, Stream Builder is a way to listen on streams. But what Observer provides on top of that is that it automatically handles some like edge case scenarios or the ways how to handle errors. So it's just a tiny wrapper, so it's somehow more convenient. Hello, hey Ben. So that's the first helper class. If you're curious about this, I made a specific episode on in this Flutter series, and I explain we built this by hand. It's relatively simple. So that's the first helper class I'll be using, and the second one is provider. So it's a very short one. So it's in essence, in spirit, is exactly what the provider package, which is popular in Flutter, does. But it's just simpler because we are just implementing what we need here. We don't need, without all this other stuff. And another one is the overseer. So again, I explained this in my other videos. So there's this analogy of a garden, and each garden needs an overseer, just a one overseer. And overseer is this person that manages managers. And this is just implementation of this old pattern called service locator. So we will just overseer. I don't know. I worry that I just stutter, and I'm not sure if it's good enough for other people to watch it. So I'm not sure if I will do it. I will publish it, but let me know. Okay, so that's the third class, and so overseer is this class that just locates managers and employs them to do some specific work. So we have those methods like summoning managers and releasing them. And what we need else? Okay, so we just need a tiny bit. So this is not yet finished by me. I haven't had time to make it like the proper way. But to make it nicer, I created this interface manager, and I just only specify that managers should have dispose, but they should have more methods here. The interface should be larger, but for now it's good enough. And then I can just specify in the overseer that I'm only interested in managing overseers, yeah, in managing managers. Sorry. Okay, so these are the helper classes, and they are somehow connected. So if you're interested, I encourage you just check those other videos, and it's relatively straightforward. And we'll just use them now. Okay, Milos, thank you. And so let's go back to our actual application. So here in the main, we have this builder, and I will now wrap this builder with a widget, which is the observer, the one we just added. And it takes a stream. So here we will add, I will write it null for now. And it also takes another parameter, which is on success. And it takes context and data. So once we get some data on this stream, this data will be available in this handler. Not yet, but I hope, yeah, maybe kings or queens and emperors, that'll be nice. So we are adding this here, and I will just grab this code and return. Okay, so here I can just use the shortcut instead of I can do expression body this way with the arrow. It's similar to JavaScript. So now, as you can see, overseer, observer provides this nice thing that if there is no data, it will wait. So that's this additional thing I was talking about. With Stream Builder, you need to implement that, and Observer already provides that. So if there's no data, if it's null, it's somehow a little bit nicer, but maybe it's not ideal. And now we just need to get the stream. The stream we already have in Manager. So we need to somehow connect this world of managers managed by overseer, maybe, and in future maybe emperors and kings, with the widget tree in Flutter. So in order to do that, we will use provider, and we will do one simple injection to the widget tree. And instead of injecting like a random classes, we will just inject the overseer, so that we will always ask the overseer for a specific manager. So let's do that. So in order to inject overseer, we need to go to the top of our application, and over here we would need to let's say here, wrap widgets. So we will use the provider, and the provider allows us to inject the data. So we will just inject as the data the overseer, like so. And it should be good. So this is the moment. So we are doing it at the top of our tree. So the top is the root in computer science. So in computer science, the top of the tree is the root, and we are injecting the overseer at the root, so at the top level, so that all the widgets that are below can access that, can ask overseer for a specific manager. So once we have that, we can now go back to this place over here. And in the build method, we can just say manager, or it will be rather article manager. And we can now do this trick in Flutter, provider of context. Oops, it's slow. Article manager, like that. So I didn't make this window full screen. I just resize it by hand, and this way I can keep the emulator on top. But if I do it full screen, it will disappear. Okay, so we have an error. So we have the manager. So here, through the provider, we are asking, so the context allows us to go through the widget tree and ask the overseer for a specific manager. So we have the manager, and manager has the stream. So here we are using the manager and the stream. And hopefully something happens positive. Receiver, no. Let me reload. Okay, so we have some problems. Let's see. So manager. Okay. We haven't specified the in our repository. We need to specify managers that are available in this application. So let me just take a look how it should be done. Yeah, so we need to define the factories, and so it means that we are using the name and like that. No, it's not working. Okay, it's working. We just need to implement the manager, the interface or the abstract class we defined. And of course, we need to add this. So for now, we will keep it empty. So is it working? the browse, the stream. Okay, this should work. Of course. We forgot about the most important thing, I would say. So because here in manager expects us, it provides a sink in filter. So it will wait for a signal to do the fetching. So we just need to, here in manager, we just need to say, listen, manager, in filter, add, and I will just add empty string. So it fetches all. And voila, it works. So we close the whole cycle. And now in the data, we should have the proper data for this application. So we could just do something of that sort. How to do it properly. So let's do element data index. So we are grabbing a particular item from the collection, and instead of writing test, we will do element. We will do element, but in order to make it work, we should yeah, it works. Perfect. I wasn't expecting that, but it works. So we can type it here to be more specific if you prefer. I think I prefer it for now. So it only displays 4 because we defined this as item count, but we can be more smart about this and we could say data length. So it will display all it got. And there you have it. So we closed the cycle. I'm happy because I was thinking that it will take more time. Okay, so let's go over that again. So it all starts with the manager. So we are in a widget. We are in the widget tree, which is a universe, let's say. And the widget tree is one universe, and the managers with overseer is another universe. And these are parallel universes. And they communicate just through two ways and using two methods. The first method is through syncs. So widgets send something to managers through syncs, and widgets receive something from managers through streams. So in order to start the cycle, we use a sync in this manager to say send an empty string to notify the manager that it should start fetching the articles from this third-party API. And now we are entering into here. So we are receiving that empty string. We are executing the browse. So later on, we should pass this filter into this browse, of course, so that we could execute the filtering on the REST API. So we are receiving the articles and we are yielding that so that it creates another stream, and we are listening for that, and we are adding this to the browse. So the widget receives that back now through this stream, and it receives that because it observes using the observer that stream and reacts on that. So once there is a data we built or rebuilt the list view using that. So not sure if that's clear, or should I, please let me know. Okay, so I think it's clear if there are no questions. So let's now make it pretty. Instead of using center, we could maybe use something more more fancy. So we could, for example, use list tile here, like that. Okay, it's better. And what else? There is subtitle and list title. So what's nice about VS Code and Flutter is that I can just click and I can go inside and I can see everything was available. There's a lot of comments. So I really like this. Like it allows you to discover. It's not only the types as you type. I mean, as you write the code, you can see what's available on particular objects, instances, but you can also directly go there. So, okay, so we have subtitle, and for subtitle, we will, let's just display the element description. Okay, it works, perfect. There is this parameter called isFreeLines, so we can make the tile larger. Okay, that's good. We could now add the avatar of the author of that article. So we will use circle avatar for that, and background image. This will be network image. And here we need to provide the URL. So we need to first fetch that. So now we connected everything, and we can now focus on getting additional attributes for articles and just start arranging that on the screen. So I will go back to this place over here, and let's do something like that, avatar. And avatar is tricky because if we go to the API, user avatar is available on the user. So it means that we need to do JSON. Sorry about that. JSON. And we need to do user first, and then we need to do profile image 90. So we are just adding it here, and so now we could just do element avatar here, and it should display it, and works. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So it's kind of, it starts looking as a application for browsing Dev.to. So let's maybe change the description. Oops. Dev.to mobile. And I will do it white. there's something strange in Flutter regarding colors. I'm not sure. I think. Okay. Okay, so we have that. So now we could make it a little bit closer to how it looks like on Dev.to. So we have tags, we have the date, we have the reactions. So maybe let's try to quickly implement that here. So let me so we have this. Maybe we could wrap it into a cart. Okay, so it's nicer. Guru meditation screen? What do you mean, Sean? Okay, so we have that, and we could now maybe add a column. So we will wrap it as a column. So we will have the avatar and the title on one level, and below we will have those reactions layer or row. So we will what we will do here is that so we will do children like that. So that's the first layer. Children. Is it still working? Yes, it's working. And the second will be the reactions. So let me add this. So I'll do padding, age insets, let's say 8, child, and as a child, we will do, so I would like to display the tags. So maybe let me revert that. So maybe I could display tags over here under the subtitle. So I will wrap again this description into a column. So I could now have 2 lines, and the first one would be the text. Yeah, I think it would be good. And so here we will do a row and children, okay. And we will do, okay, but we don't have tags yet. We haven't fetched those tags. So let's go back to the API. And tags is a tag list. It's an array. So we go back again to our data and we add this. So and here, And I think for tags, we need to do something more tricky, because not sure. I think it won't work. Well, but let's see. So here I could do. So in Dart, in Flutter, you can use those statements and those constructs such as for and if inside the widget tree. So here I can just write, for example, tag in element tags like that, and I can just now display text, and I can just say tag. No, I don't need that. What's wrong here? Let me check. I think should I what's wrong? Tags, that should be okay. Try updating. Okay, I think we have a null somewhere. So can I use this syntax? I forgot the syntax. Yeah, I can run the debugging for the stack trace. So I just worry my computer will die. But let's see. Now, what I wrote, no, it's stupid. I wanted to have an empty list. The getter iterator was called a null. Okay, it works. Hello, Grigory. I'm sorry if I pronounced wrong your name. So I just did this operator. If it's null, create an empty list. And I also ran the dev tools over here. But for now, I think we are good. But I don't see the tags, so that's a problem. Let's see. We should get elements and okay, it recompiles, I think, or what happens? Okay. So I have everywhere, if I hover, I'm not sure if it's visible, the tags are empty. So I think we did something wrong. Okay. Let's remove that. So here, JSON tags list. Is it tags list or tag list? Ah, it's tag list. Okay. Silly me. So once we cover GraphQL, you'll see that it's somehow better. Okay. So for now, let's just change this to dynamic as it suggests. So that just the idea is to display those tags and then we will go back from there to make it a proper way. Okay, but I don't see. Okay, it's slow. Okay, the tags are there. So we managed to display them. And just to make it a little bit more pretty, I can prefix each word with hash like that, and maybe space. Okay, so it's pretty okay. So we have tags, we have description. Hello. So now we could maybe add those reactions. So again, we had to repeat now the same approach, and we need to go to the API. We need to see which field is what we need. So we need to find this. So let's say we are interested in positive reactions count. Yeah, maybe it depends. This is somehow another subject, a chat, but why not? So again, we found the field we want. So we are doing reactions. Let's say reaction count. And sorry about that. And okay, we need to add this reaction count. Hey, Tom. So again, we found the field in the API, we extracted it from the JSON we are receiving from that API, and we incorporated that into our model. So that all that, as I said at the beginning, should be automated. But for now, we are doing it by hand to see the process. And once we have that, we can now display it. So maybe here, where in this padding, I could just get, let's say, yeah, so maybe we could do a row over here and with children. And inside, we will a container. And inside this container, we will add a child and the text. And this will be element and reaction count. And we need to convert it to string. Okay, so we have reactions. Okay, so it'd be nice to have the image. Here we have the image. So maybe we could just get this image. So I'm not using Safari. I mean, on daily basis, but I'm just using it because it uses the processor less than Firefox, which is my default browser. So if I do something stupid with the dev tools, let me know. And I just want to get this image here, okay? And I want to display it here. So how we could do that? So we could add another. We could add a row. And here we could do image network, and we could provide this maybe. Will this work? Okay, it works, but it's too big. So is there a way to make it smaller? Okay, I have scale. So if I do half, okay, it must be, so the parameter, the named parameter must be sorry, I don't see it. There's a mistake. What's the problem? Okay. So I need to write the scale inside here. So I need to just put it here. Yeah. It's just the formatting. The line is so long. Oh, yeah. Okay, it's bigger. Strange. So if I do 5, it's smaller. Let's do 12. It's small. I don't know why the bigger the number, the smaller the image. If someone knows, chat if you know. Please let me know. Okay, so we have that. We could just make padding slightly bigger here. So I could just wrap this text with a padding. Yeah, and we could maybe just use only, and we'll do left. Yeah, so it's pretty much okay. So I think we have the base. We could improve it later. I will publish this repo, of course, for you to play with it. But for now let's just switch the gears and let's see how we can do the same thing with GraphQL. So as you've seen with REST API was a little bit cumbersome because we had to read the documentation and then we had to find the field, and I even made a mistake when typing. So we had to like discover that manually. But with GraphQL, it's easier. So there is this service, pretty cool service called OneGraph. And recently they did integration for Dev.to. So basically it's this tool which aggregates different services. So for example, GitHub and Twitter and Stripe, they aggregate the GraphQL APIs together so that you can use everything at once. And you can just, for example, you can cross the data. So I encourage you to check this out, but they added Dev.to. So this is their, this is an explorer they provide. And as you can see, you have different services. Some of them you probably know, like Stripe, Spotify, Slack, and there is now Dev.to. And you can now do, so let's start simple, because I was playing with this just before you can now do a query, a GraphQL query, and for example, to fetch the titles, and you see it immediately on the right. So as I type, what's very nice about GraphQL and OneGraph here is that I see this description, for example. Thank you, Grigori. Thank you. Bye-bye. So I can now easily test, and I can just click execute, and the description is there. And what's nice, as you've seen with user, I can just do user, and then I only see the fields that are for this subfield. And then where is it? Oh yeah, user and profile image. So instead of doing it manually as we did here in this class and typing it and trying to see the documentation and even making mistakes, I can now construct the query the way I want. So in our case, we want ID title. So we have ID title, description, profile image, and let's the reaction count. So we will positive reaction count. So I can just type PO and enter, and bam, already it's already better. And tag lists. So tags, yeah, it's simply tags here, and it's an array. Okay, so it's good. So with just few clicks, I generated this query, and now I could just what's left to do is just to take this query and to use it in our application as GraphQL. So let's try to do that. I'm already a little bit tired because it's almost 2 hours, but let's try to finish that with this GraphQL integration. So it's very similar to what we did. We implemented this browse method in our service. So this third universe, the universe of widgets, the universe of managers managed by this overseer or king or emperor, and the third universe, which is the services. So here we will implement another static method, and it will be identical to this one. But instead of using a REST API, we will be using a GraphQL API. And article model, I think I need to invest into this box for streaming, because otherwise it's a little bit painful. So I will name it query, just to, and now we need to implement this. We need a client, a GraphQL client, so that we can go to OneGraph and execute this query we were executing in this browser. So all those links I will post it in the description of this video, so you'll have access to that. So we need a client, and there is a client in Flutter. Did I? No, I didn't. So if you type Flutter GraphQL, there's, I think, just one client called GraphQL or GraphQL Flutter. So we can just install it as we did before. I'm not sure, Sweetnantra. I will need to check it out. So I will just grab this package, but yeah, I've seen they have an old version here. It's free here. So let's use version free. And I'm saving, and it should start downloading that. Okay, it's still running. Okay, it should be good. So now we need to implement the client. So we will do it in the service. So there are two ways of doing that. You can, the plugin provides a widget, a query widget you can insert, or you can do it through a service, as we will do here. So what I don't like about doing it as a widget is, again, it's like combining two different things, like complecting the widget tree with the data. But it depends, so it's up to you. But here I will show you this second approach. So first, let's create the client. So they mimic somehow, if you're familiar with JavaScript, the Apollo client. So it's somehow similar. So they have this class GraphQL client, and oops. And here you need to add two required arguments. The first one is cache, and the second one is link. So the link is static HTTP link, HTTP link. Okay, URI, and here we need to provide the URI to OneGraph. So maybe it's something stupid, but I didn't know how to get this URI here. So what I did is I was just observing the network tab in the here in the manager, and I'm not familiar with. Yeah, I just grabbed this, I think. So if there's a better way of getting this URL, it's silly, but I didn't know how to do that. So I just got that and pasted here. And okay, so we have that, and now we can connect. So here, the link we created over here, we can now pass it here. And okay, and for the cache, we can use in memory, like that. Okay, so we have a client connected to OneGraph. And now we can use it. So let's try doing that. So here in this method, we will do final. And first we need to define the options for this request. So the package provides this class query options. And we can just do the delay. And yeah, so they have document node, and here we will define the query. So we will just copy that query. I will add it in a moment. And then we have other things like variables. Sometimes you may need to provide variables. And yeah, that's all. So let's define, for simplicity again, let's do article, let's do article query. And in Dart, you can do those, like in Python, those strings like that. Okay. And here, we need to convert the string. Sorry, delay. Okay. So yeah, we have that. So we are passing the query the same way as we are doing it from this UI over here as query options. And now we need to get the result. So there is another class, query result, and result. And we need to do client. So the client we created here at the top. This one. And we need to just execute a query with the options we provided, like that. And of course, this is an asynchronous operation, so we need to await. And now we need to get into the proper data inside the result. So as you can see here, it's nested under data Dev.to articles nodes. So we just need to do it the same way here. So we are expecting a list, an array. This nodes is an array of articles. So that's our data. and we are getting this top thing as a field on results, and the rest is as the keys. So Dev.to articles and notes. So it's kind of strange, but it is how it is. Articles and notes, right? Two articles, notes, like that. Yeah, so we have that. And now, so again, this is a list of JSON. So we need to convert it into our application, our instances. So we need to do something similar to what we did here. So it will be almost the same. So we can just maybe grab this line, 2 lines over here. And instead of iterating over collection, it's data. So this data over here, we are iterating and we are transforming using this from JSON we defined on our article model. But now it's not correct because we need to do some adjustments. We will do that in a moment. But let's just see if everything is okay here. Yeah, so we need to just return elements to list, like that. And let's go back to the results. So as you can see, in the Dev.to REST API, it's not, certain things are, how to say it, it's not unified. And then OneGraph is unified. So it's always camel case. And so in this case, we can just repeat that and say profile image like that, and tags are also okay, because we are still doing the request to the other thing, to the REST API, so we need to change that. So here, instead of doing browse, we'll do query, and hopefully it will work. So, yeah, okay. So we forgot about some data, I think. Avatar. Do we have avatar here? Profile image. Let's see. Yeah, it's still working. Yeah, I think it's time I invest in a new computer because it's too slow. Hmm. So in the meantime, let's check if everything is. I think it looks good. Query. Hmm. Not sure what happens here. It's still syncing. Thanks, John. That's very nice. Uh, you know what? I think I will stop and let's just start it because it was too much. Because we added a new plugin, and maybe that somehow uh, made the compiler. I'm stopping it, and let's start again. Yeah, something is wrong with the. It will take a moment. But I think it should work. Yeah, so now if you want to change something with this query, you can just add it here. And you can, what's nice about this approach, what's superior in my opinion with GraphQL is that you can test it in GraphQL Explorer. Yeah, maybe a spread stream would be better because I'm sorry guys, I wasn't expecting so many problems. I was thinking that I will manage that, but yeah, I hope you learned something or it was useful anyway. It's my first time doing that, so yeah, sorry about all the little fuck ups we did. Um, let's see if it finishes. I'm not sure why it's running Xcode, but oh, I know why. Hmm. I had my phone connected. Ah, let's try it out and see if this version works. Yeah, but anyway, I think if you're interested, of course, I will do a proper video about GraphQL because I wanted to focus on GraphQL, but we focused on REST and we just finished with GraphQL. So I think, and I think GraphQL deserves more attention here. So the tooling, for example, this service OneGraph provides so many things. We just, it's just the tip of the iceberg what we covered here. For example, you can here define interactively certain things, and it's smart enough. It knows what, if I click top, it knows it's integer that I want top the top 10 articles and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot of things to cover here for sure. And yeah, it's crazy that it's almost 2 hours now in this stream. I was thinking that we will finish under 1 hour, but yeah, computer science, it's complicated. So, not sure what happened. I think we hit Flutter hard this time. It's still compiling. Yeah. Hmm. Dynamic. Let me check that. Yeah, I only missed the mark by 100%. Hmm. Okay, I think if you don't mind, let's maybe stop here because I don't know what happened. I don't want to keep you waiting like that. I will push the code with the GraphQL version, um, and I think it will be working without problem because there are some strange errors here. I don't understand. At the same time, I see I have only 10% left of my CPU. So my computer is really, maybe that's the reason something is, yeah. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that and there was something useful for you. And let me know your feedback, what should be improved. Maybe I should be prepared better or just think about estimating it better. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and hopefully see you next time. So thank you guys. And now let's just turn off the stream. How to do this? Okay, bye.